Everybody, it's Jim Johnson here, the head coach at Contractor Coach Pro and your host here on Contractor Radio. And we get to do this every once in a while where we have a special guest in studio. And anytime one of our coaches is in, I definitely want to get them on a podcast and highlight what they do here at Contractor Coach Pro and highlight them out there on Contractor Radio, because you guys may only listen to that, and so you don't know all of our other coaches. And I want to bring that to light a little bit today. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. We're going to talk about kind of what Jon does for us, and we're going to talk about the different sizes and stages that contractors go through, because I think a lot of times we kind of look at it as like one thing. I'm a contractor, I got to grow and scale. And what we've done, I think, pretty much is decided that there's multiple stages to this, and certain things you got to do at this stage, and then this stage, and then this stage, and you get to do two things for us. You not only help our contractors that are in our Boost program, which is stage one contractors. They're usually under $1 million, and they're trying to get to that first $2 or $3 million. And then you also are a head coach, so you help our clients that are in that $2 to $3 million range, and then scaling up into the 10s and 20s and getting into 8 figures. So welcome to the show, Jon. It's good to have you here, man.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm excited to meet. It's been a fun trip so far. So I think it's been pretty productive. Had a little bit of fun.
It's been cool because one of the things we do here, I've made a significant investment, I think, into our studios and things like that. So we get to bring you guys in as coaches and have you do some of your content, whether that's marketing, sometimes some silliness. We had some silliness this time.
A little bit.
We're excited about sharing that with you guys out there. And so that means, hey, you got to go follow us on social media. Seriously, it's about to get good. So Facebook, Contractor Coach Pro. Follow Jon on his stuff. It's going to be pretty fun. So Jon, how long have you been with us now? It's
going on 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a bit now.
Yeah.
And so just so people know what it's like to work here, what are some of the things that you like about being a part of Contractor Coach Pro?
Man, I don't know where to start. It's like, well, how much time do you have? No, we first and foremost the culture of excellence at Contractor Coach Pro. When I first joined the team, I mean, I'm not just surrounded. I mean, I knew Jim, I knew Nathan, right? We developed a friendship and even a mentorship capacity over the last couple of years. A couple of years before I even joined the team, but it was like that very first meeting when you sit down and you're in front of all the coaches, Rosalind, Jenny, Chuck, right now it's Tommy, Mike. And even all the players that are working with, I mean, everybody's just so good at what they do, and they bring so much to the table that it was a little bit staggering at first, right? But the culture is iron tight, right? We exist to love, serve, care for the industry, and all of our decisions and all of our conversations are centered around that, and that just becomes very magnetic. So, like from the get-go, I felt like I belonged, but that I was also going to be pushed. Right, and sometimes in life we don't intentionally put ourselves in positions to be pushed. Like we'll choose the path of least resistance, but this has been a continued series of being pushed, of stretching myself, learning new skills, and bringing our clients impact.
Yeah, it's important to me. Number one, like that, if we're going to bring coaches in. I want them to improve. That's one of our core values also, is to master our craft. And I think that comes through gaining skill and growing as a leader, building capacity, those type of things. The same things we teach to our clients. I think it's super important to do that internally as well. And you came on, we kind of brought you through our contractor's blueprint, so that you understood that framework inside and out and backwards and forwards, which takes a lot of time. What was that like to go through that?
It was eye-opening. From my seat, I mean, I've done a lot of training in the past, and I worked primarily in sales. But when you really take a step back and you look at all the components that need to, and furthermore, not just all the components, but kind of the ideal order to which they need to, that they could be built. Every company is different, and that's another reason why I love what I do, is everybody's uniquely different, even if they're at the same stage. But being able to take a step back and see all the things that really go into building a successful contracting company that you can remove yourself from or do whatever, you can find freedom within and empower other people to grow and to step into their leadership and become who God made them to be. Like, there's just a lot that goes into it, and it's easy to see how many of it can be skipped or overlooked. And so the more I dove into it, I mean, the blueprint, if you've not purchased the Contractor's Blueprint, what are you waiting for? It's on them. Get yourself a copy. It's eye-opening, but it's easy to see how these steps can be overlooked or bypassed if they're not something that we're comfortable with, or have, for instance, building process. If you're not process-driven, then it could be something that you bypass because it's going to take a lot of work.
Well, it's going to take a lot of work. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
You're not sure exactly how to build one. You got to build something in order, right? Yeah. But what are the components of a process that make it effective? Like, right. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And so teaching our clients those 5 components that go with every task that you do in a process and getting that clear, I think that's invaluable to our clients.
Yeah. And so in general, there's a lot of content.
Yeah.
Jim, you've built a lot of content. It's robust.
Well, I think that's something that contractors may lose sight of sometimes, is that there actually is a lot to being a business person or an entrepreneur. I think entrepreneur kind of has this connotation to it that it's, I got to be able to market and sell, and I got to be able to make money. Like, that's kind of the entrepreneur jive. But whenever you turn it into a business, it becomes more metric driven. It becomes more well-oiled machine, repeatable, and that's not something that's a common theme in the trades. Like, it's, hey, I do this work really well so I can get more work by word of mouth, or I can sell a lot, but man, we have a lot of problems because of that, because there's no process, no systems and stuff like that. And if I want to scale, then what, right? Like, how do I scale what I do?
Exactly.
It's pretty easy to scale those first 2 or 3 people. I think the place that most people struggle is, like, who are those first 2 or 3 people? A lot of mistakes are made there because they think they have to replace themselves. And what would you say to that? Would you say that people actually need to replace themselves, or could it look a little bit different?
It could absolutely look a bit, and particularly in those beginning stages. I feel like, for instance, an owner's out there selling all the work, right? They came from sales, and they're just the one out there producing the work, right? When I say producing, they're the ones selling the work. They're the ones managing the jobs, and they feel like, I
could just get another guy to do that. Somebody to do that.
If I can just get somebody to do that, then I'll have so much more time. Or, you know what? Sales is not even my strong suit. I want to pull myself out of that role, so I need to replicate myself and just get somebody else in here to do what I want, what I don't want to do. But oftentimes that's a swing and a miss.
Yeah, right. So, for example, like I've seen this quite a few times. Guy's really strong at sales, and so he goes, "Hey, I need to get more salespeople to scale my team and get me out of sales."
Right.
But the reality is that's probably not the person he needs to hire. He probably needs to hire somebody else that does all the stuff he's not great at.
Right.
And so, what would that look like?
Well, salespeople don't like to do paperwork.
They're not very good at that at all.
No, I mean, like to point what you said. I mean, Lord forbid you hire all these salespeople and they actually do what they're supposed to do, and they go out and they sell a bunch of work. And now, who's going to administer all that work? Who's going to take care? Who's going to be able to help to make sure our production, that we can actually do the work and that it's up to the level that we as an owner expect of our company? So I think that oftentimes the very first direction you should look for help or for capacity, right, is in the form of administration. Like, is an admin assistant, somebody that can keep you organized, that can do the things that you likely don't like to do and aren't really that great at it anyways. Because it's going to, then I see this as, we got to look at like the second and third level down the road. Like, got to be a little bit, that's why establishing your vision, I think, is so important. Because they say, okay, I want to get out of sales as quickly as I can. Well, get you pulling yourself out of sales or whatever function. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen alone. You usually need somebody else that's going to step in and allow you the capacity to go out and sell more, right? And sell it profitably, because now you don't have to pay any more salespeople, right? You don't have to pay a commission, and you can whatever you're paying that part-time admin person or full-time admin person, the amount of revenue that you can generate for your company profitably will more than take care of that person's the overhead of having to pay somebody a salary. Not to mention, I think this gets missed a lot. Nobody sells like the owner.
Yeah. Well, nobody can make the decisions an owner can make.
Right.
Like if he wants to lower the price a little bit to get the job, he can certainly do that. Where once you get scaled out and repeatable, there's certain standards that have to be met. He can say, I'm the owner, and so you can trust me, right? Yeah, you can always come to me, which a salesperson can't do. And that's another reason why it makes it hard for them to hire salespeople and think they're going to replicate what they can do, because they literally can't do what they can do.
Exactly.
They're not the ultimate decision maker.
Right, and there's just a lot of supportive beliefs that you have as an owner, based on your pricing, the kind of work you do. Like nobody's gonna talk about your company with pride the way you do it, right?
Yeah, so let's take a step back for a second. Let's talk about what we're explaining here. That there's more than one stage to this whole thing. It's not just a simple stage that I'm a contractor and I've got to grow. And we grow through these stages and we hit these ceilings at certain points. And so I'll lay out a little bit of those stages, and then I'll talk a little bit about how you play a role in that. So there's the startup phase, right? Like the startup stage, it's, hey, I'm going to go out and get a business license, maybe a truck, and I'm going to go out and start obtaining some business. And it's actually a pretty simple stage. It's why I think in this industry it's so easy to get into it. I don't think there's a requirement for any education. You might have to pass a test to get your contractor's license, but that's like any other test. You study enough for it, you can probably pass it. But that's about as hard as it gets. I don't think when you go to take that test, they say, hey, have you graduated high school or have you graduated college? You don't even have to have a GED. Anybody can do it. And that's why there's so many contractors and why there's such a miss rate. 80% of contractors go out of business in the first 3 years. And I think it's because they're missing some of those tools that they need to be successful, which is our mission. That's why we're here. We want to help and give back to an industry that was pretty good to me. I was very fortunate. I had some training coming into this before I actually got into the contracting world. So that's kind of stage one, that startup thing, right? And one of our coaches, Mike Bose, is actually building out some content for what that startup phase looks like. Super excited. He's going to be coming in here in a couple weeks to do a lot of what you're doing. Record some of that content, get some of that training put together. So let's assume we kind of get that start, right? So that's stage one. Stage two is what we call all the hats. So we got all the hats on. We're everything. We're the salesperson. We're the production person. We are the admin, the bookkeeper, the everything, the field inspector, the collector, all of it.
Customer service.
Customer service, yeah, exactly. And so those guys are held back because they're wearing all those hats. And they usually start to bump up against the ceiling at about $1 million. Like they can get to that, and sometimes far less. I mean, they start bumping into it around 300, 400,000, and they just work more hours. They work more hours to get everything done. And then some of them pretty sharp. They'll be like, okay, I don't like doing this paperwork thing, so I'll get an admin that will bump them up to that $1 million. So some of them are 2 people. And that's kind of stage 2, right? Like this, hey, I'm going to get one person to help me out, get me close to that 7-figure number, but I can't go any further than that. Right. Then they go, hey, I got some buddies, I got some family. I think they can do these other things, so maybe that'll allow me to sell more and pay them. And that's that friends and family phase. Like you're able to recruit some of those folks in there. And that can get you into that $2 or $3 million range. But then you bump into some other hurdles. Like I run out of friends and family. I find out that my friends and family aren't the people I actually want to work with. And I run out of people that know me and know how I think, know my personality, know my strengths and weaknesses. And literally, like, we can think for each other. We like fill in each other's sentences. And I know that I just need to cover that for him, and she needs to cover this for me. And that works pretty well. And it starts to run into those problems at about $2 or $3 million. And that's where we will see the growth phase, where this stage where you go, I get it. I need to start documenting stuff. I need to start making it repeatable. If I'm going to go to that other place, because there's kind of this death valley. There's this death valley between about 3 and 8 million, 3 and 10 million, where you've now decided to scale this thing, and you're going to do a lot of investing. You're going to put people in place because you're going to need them. You're going to have to get systems put together. You might even get a coach. So you get this investment into this thing to scale it up, and we really work hard to skip that as fast as possible. But once we get into that, then you got this expansion phase. So we get through the growth phase and we get a lot of the stuff in place, becomes a well-oiled machine. Now you're thinking about expanding. And this is where I think a lot of contractors make mistakes. They're like, hey, I got this cool thing. It's working pretty good. Like, we're doing okay. And I want to go open a new location. Opening a new location, a new place is like a whole new business. And while you may have all the systems in place, they don't know who you are.
Right.
It's like you never existed before. And I would challenge that the best way to expand is to dominate your market first, and then start to dominate other trades that are very similar to yours that you can roll into what you do. And that can easily take you to 25, 30, 40, 50, sometimes even $100 million.
This is a golden nugget right there, by the way. If you're thinking of expansion, press rewind, listen to that again, write it down.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, hey, man, you do roofing really well. Think about what roofing is, okay? So you go out and you sell it and produce it, build it, collect it. You've marketed to get people interested in your product as a roofer. Okay, what else is like that? Well, fencing is a lot like that. Same labor and manpower, actually probably safer. They're like, hey, man, I don't have to be on a roof. I can go install a fence, and that would be great. Oh, that sounds good to me. Your profit margins are very similar. The process is very similar. Market for it, sell it, build it, collect it. And now I got this new trade that I can be very targeted in my marketing around fencing, or targeted in my marketing around roofing, instead of targeted in my marketing of exterior services. Like, exterior services, what does that mean? You want to be very targeted in what we do. And now I got this fencing thing down. And you can apply that same logic over and over and over. Now let's do some siding. Let's do some windows. Let's do some patio covers, like one-off things, garage doors, garage floors.
Yeah.
And now you just dominate this market that you're in a way that prevents you from having to travel all over the world. You still get to spend time with your family. You install the same systems you had before. You already have earned trust with the community that you have. It's easy to market. Hey, guess what? We do fencing now. All you people that we ever did roofs for need some fencing. Boom, there's your first sales right there.
Right.
So you've been here now this 2 years, and I don't know, it's been about a year now that we went, hey, we've got this program. It's called Boost, and it's for that stage one contractor, that guy that's under $1 million. Up until then, you've been head coaching, like you're taking clients all the way through the whole thing, like starting at that, $2 million to $3 million number, and taking care of those other phases, right?
Right.
So the growth phase, expansion phase, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been really blessed to see, and work with a lot of different contractors at different stages. And like I said, the thing that jumps out at me, though, is regardless if you have two contractors that are at the exact same stage, they're still so uniquely different, right? And the way that the way they solve problems and their skill set. But I've just been really blessed to be exposed to a lot of them. And like you said, the last year that we've had Boost, it's predominantly that stage one contractor, just that's either stepping into stage two, or maybe they've been there and they've backtracked.
Some of them are startup and saying, hey, I just want to get the stuff in place right. So it fits everything from startup to, like, I tried to scale and I messed up and I had to reel back. And our whole goal is take you from that number that's less than $1 million into that $2 to $3 million by getting the basics in place of this blueprint, like these things that we have to do in order. So about a year ago, I had run the first group through Boost, kind of got a good feel for what that looked like. There was pretty good success out of that group. And I went to you and I said, hey, Jon, you went through a lot of this with me. What did you think about it? And you really liked it. So what do you think about maybe running the whole Boost program? And so what's that been like?
Boost has been, well, I mentioned earlier that it's been a stretch. I've been stretched in certain ways. So taking on Boost was a little bit of a stretch, but luckily for me, there was already a program that you worked your butt off to create, and it already had results. But I immediately, when I started joining the Boost classes and spending time around smaller contractors, who some were small because they've chosen to stay small, and some are now saying, you know what, I want to grow. I want to make this thing a legitimate brand in my community, and I want to incorporate other people. It's been incredible. We've now run since that first session. We've now run I think 7 other cohorts. Each one is uniquely different. It's been a really great time. I connect really well with that size contractor.
Take a step back for a second. Yeah. What's a cohort? These guys that are listening, they may not know what that means.
Apologies, gang. So
that's okay.
So our Boost class is unique. It's a group coaching, right? It's a group of folks from all over the country, all different markets, who are all kind of fighting that same fight. They're at the stage 1 level. They're thinking of, okay, how can I create system? How can I create process? How can I get more work without driving myself crazy? So every cohort has about anywhere between 10 to 15 different contractors who are all on the same team for about 6 months. It's a 6-month course, right? And we meet weekly.
Yeah, it's like going to college.
It's like going to college. There's a curriculum that's very applicable to you. I always challenge everybody to see it through the lens of your business, like what we're talking about. What is it? And that can be a struggle because a lot of folks don't understand. I feel like the very first, even as an athlete, right? It's very important to learn about who you are, what you do well, what you struggle with. Like that becomes the lens that you filter training and coaching through, right? So, but they're all doing that. They're all able to apply the teaching and the coaching to their particular stage right now. And furthermore, what they want to accomplish. But it's been really great. We have a unique way of making it. It's in a group setting, but making it very personal and very unique to every single client. What I've found overwhelmingly is that these folks that are at this stage they're incredibly coachable. They work incredibly hard. I mean, they are just working. They're working in their business and not on it, and they need a safe place to ask questions and learn what they need to learn, right? And work on things and try and do things.
That's like one of the biggest things is we get so like in our business and we start literally working for it, and we never take any time to work on it, and so we're caught in this cycle we can't get out of.
But I don't have time to work on it. But in order for me to get time, I need to do more work. I need to sell more work, right? Or I need to hire this chicken and egg. How do I just create space?
So that's the whole block scheduling thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we teach guys how to block schedule so they can be more efficient and effective with the time they have, creating capacity to work on that business and setting aside 2 or 3 hours a week. I mean, that's really all the sacrifice it is. Like take 2 or 3 hours a week, work on it. And what'll happen over time if you do that, you will have to work less in it, affording you more time to work on it. And then the real scaling, it's like a hockey stick, right? Like you're dedicating a little bit of time, and things are getting a little bit better. And then all of a sudden it hits this like crescendo because now I've got some people in place where I've got all my systems in place and I can just start hiring to that. And it's boom, and just let it run. And you can take it as far as you want to take it, which is pretty cool to watch these contractors do.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of our contractors who went through Boost, he shared this analogy. He lives in Indiana, and he said, "I feel like I'm trying to get to California," and I started off just on foot. He said,
headed towards Pennsylvania.
yeah. But he said eventually somewhere around the county line, I found a moped. He said, and then eventually I got towards the state line, and I found a little beat up truck. He said, and then across a couple of states, and then I found a nice sports car. He's like, and all of a sudden, I'm on my way to California. So it's it can be tough to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and like actually allow yourself to visualize what you want this baby to turn into. Like it can be a stretch to do that, but like you said, the more if you can develop habits, create capacity for yourself to work on it, it will incrementally you'll get to a point where you feel exponential growth just within the activity within your business and developing your business.
Well, it's hard work to make things simple. It really is. If you want to simplify what you do and make it easier to do the thing you do, it's going to take hard work on simple things, right? It's not rocket science, anything that we teach, but it takes hard work and accountability. And so do you think it's important that the size of these groups for Boost, like, is that important to it? Because, I mean, most of the other like coaching things that we see out there, especially when it's group, they're like, as many as you want. This is like advice channel. Is it a little bit different than that? Yeah,
absolutely. We have a cap of how many folks can be in every class for a reason. I mean, it's and a lot of folks when they join, that's what they think about group coaching. They're like, oh, I'm just going to get lost in the shuffle. I'm going to be forgotten about. No, Boost. There's a level of accountability. And the cool thing is, I mean, I force you 2 hours a week. This is what I tell them. I've forced 2 hours a week on you to work on your business, like while you're here, right? But now I have to hold you accountable to that other 2 hours, right? And in a class with 80 people in it, it's just impossible. I won't say it's impossible, but it's very tricky to hold everybody accountable to actually getting the work done.
It's hard to build relationship with them too.
Yeah.
Like knowing their business and what their strengths and weaknesses are. When we keep it small, we're able to like understand that.
Yeah.
We're able to understand, okay, that guy's a good leader. He's got those skills. That guy's not. We need to work on some of those skills. This guy is picking up on the whole process thing, and that guy's not. Let's get them working together, because we do that throughout the week where they'll join up and work together on things. You can't do that with a large group format.
Right. The magical thing about accountability that I've found within this group, it applies to a lot of things, but when they create a plan and a vision for where they want to go, and then the mission, kind of using some internal language here, but the mission that I'm going to be fully focused on this year that's going to get me a step closer to achieving that vision. And when you uncover that and you discover it and you create it and you have a North Star and you have a direction to go, not doing the things that are going to get you there now just become a choice that you made. And so the accountability within the Boost group kind of shifts. Like our contractors are holding themselves accountable, and I am holding them accountable because I love them. I like them a lot, and I want them to win. And so it's me saying, hey, did you do the things that you said you wanted to do this week to get you one step closer to where you want to go? But the other special thing is they are holding themselves accountable. You mentioned that we encourage them to do peer reviews every week. So pretty much every single conversation we have, something is brought up, whether it's a software that one person's using that another person's not, or it's a tip and trick that, hey, I tried this, or it's developing a YouTube channel. Like I'm really great at digital marketing, or I don't know how to make social media posts. Oh, hey, I can do that. Let's get together. They collectively are learning about each other and building a relationship, and now holding themselves accountable to showing up.
Yeah.
I don't have to text people and say, hey, you getting on the call today, because everybody else is texting them.
Well, you have this thing, right? Like as one of those contractors in the group, there's other contractors in the group too, and they're over there doing their work. You don't want to show up without having your work done.
Right.
And almost every group, there tends to be one or two that are like all in. They're boom, 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 just nailing it. They're willing to help. They're good in the breakouts. They're good in the peer reviews. And it literally pulls the other guys towards that type of. Have you noticed that as well?
Absolutely. There's definitely some leaders. It's because, and it's pretty easy. It's because the results. I mean, they're saying, they're doing the work and they're showing up and they're saying, you know what? Yeah, we just instituted some core values. We had a meeting with our team. They'll share a picture of the meeting with the team, and everybody's bought in, and there's excitement. So yeah, it's addictive. Right, like when they show up and they're showcasing their results, or even their challenges. The best thing can sometimes be when they show up and they say, "Hey, I'm really struggling with this," and they're like, "Oh man, I can help that person." And everybody wants to be helpful, but yeah, there's always a couple of people There's no secret to it. They're joining the calls. They're carved out time and capacity. They're able to prioritize their projects and what to work on next, and they get the work done, and then they show up to the call again. They are disciplined, but they inevitably lead everybody else to just kind of rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Yeah.
And so they are the role models in the classes.
It really follows a lot of what we teach in our leadership side of things. That first part of it, we got to get some buy-in, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I start to see this vision and mission, and that starts to get some buy-in. Like, oh, I can actually see this thing happening, where it was always a little bit foggy before. And then we start to do some work, and we get some activity going, and through some positive reinforcement, we start getting some results, right? Yeah. And some discipline. Mm-hmm. And whenever you get those things working in that order, that belief thing kicks in, and that usually kicks in about the 4th, 5th week. Like, hey, man, this is actually something that's going to help me. The final product is off the charts because they're working together to put those things in place. What are some of the common things that you've seen across contractors, the things they struggle with? Like, they're coming into this boost group going, hey, please, God, make this work faster for me. I've been hitting my head against a wall. I'm tired of waiting. Or, hey, I'm just starting and I want to take the fast track. And we're like, it is the fast track because we're going to do some pretty intense stuff over the next 6 months that's going to get you 5 years ahead of everybody else that's trying to be a contractor. But what are some of the common areas where they tend to struggle whenever they come into this?
I think first and foremost, this is the reason why it's week 1, session 1, meeting 1. This is what we're working on, is time management.
Yeah.
Right. Part of that's selfish because I want them to be able to take advantage of their time and manage their time well so they get the best results they can from the course, right? But no, so being able to build capacity for yourself, to own your week. Your contractors, things cannibalize your time every day.
You get reactive.
Right.
So you're just reacting to everything that's happening out there instead of being proactive, saying, this is the time I do this thing.
Yep. And and as a result, you're putting out fires all day, and you think that everything is a fire. Everything, that's the thing. Like,
it's pretty funny.
That everything is a fire, and I must stop what I'm doing and take care of it. And as a result, there is no rhythm, there is no schedule, there's no control over your week. So that's so first and foremost. And then first off, next is, okay, you create that capacity for yourself. Now, what do I do with it?
What's important now?
Yeah, because I can find a whole bunch of things to do during this time, right? Something else is going to likely try to cannibalize your time during that time you created. Time management is an obvious one. But I would say that, there's a lot of similarities. If folks struggle thinking of identifying who's going to be the most impactful next hire.
Yeah.
What is my strategy? But so much of that, right? So much of understanding who you're going to hire next is based on where you want to eventually get. Like, you have to be able to reverse engineer who am I going to be able to bring on that's going to bring impact, that's going to bring me capacity, that's going to allow me to do a little bit more of this so that I will one day be in a position to bring this person on that's going to allow me capacity and the ability to do more of this that will eventually allow me to bring this person on. And now I'm starting to see some momentum and some time giving back to myself, a little bit more freedom, right? So I think that so much, oftentimes, this is week 2 now after we've talked about time management, is establishing that vision for where we're going and begin to think strategically about how we're going to be able to get there and how I'm going to use Boost to get this 6 months to create some serious movement on my path there.
Yeah, I would agree. Time management's big. I think understanding, like, we walk into this thing as a contractor and I'm creating a business to hopefully afford me an income level that satisfies my needs. And I think that's the first thing that people are after. The problem being, you mentioned it, like, hey, I need to identify who my first hire is going to be. Mm-hmm. In order to scale, you have to have people, and so you're identifying that. We bring some clarity to that. But there's even a step before that, like, once I have that clarity, now I have this person. Well, before I hire them, I need to maybe have a job description. I mean, maybe some KPIs and some things I'm looking for from them. Is clear expectations so that when they come into an environment and an experience that they want to stay in. Right. They want to love it. So that's that whole building out the vision, the core values, the way we behave, like getting that done before we ever even hire that first person will make everything you do so much simpler.
Thing that's jumped out, something that's jumped out to me lately, and I love talking about it. You mentioned core values. So when I'm a solopreneur and I'm out there doing everything, the core values of my company are my guiding principles. Just how I go about my business, how I do my work, how I talk to people, how I talk to my family, my guiding principles, how I go about my business. And when I say my business, I mean everything, just the way you think, what you prioritize. Now, as soon as and this is another thing that's jumped out, as soon as we incorporate somebody else into the mix, right? Anybody else in any capacity, they come with their own set of guiding principles, right? And so we have this kind of conflicting, and many times we have conflicting guiding principles. I always equate it to this. I played pro baseball. I signed with the Angels. They sent me out to, I don't know, Billings, Montana, I think, or Casper, Wyoming, one of them. And we had a long bus drive, and we got to the hotel, and I was stuck with a roommate. I'd never met this kid before. He was from Toronto. And if you're listening, you know who you are. And but he, my first roommate, he didn't like the AC on, so he wanted it warm. He liked to sleep with the TV on. He had his toiletry items all over the place. Now, and I like the AC blowing out icicles. I like TV off. I want to hear a fan, right? I want to bundle up. And so we had conflicting guiding principles. Now, here's the thing. Neither one of us are wrong.
Right.
That's how he goes about it. It's not until we come to an agreed upon set of, hey, this is how we're going to behave. We're going to have a conversation about it. This is how we're going to behave when we're together, because we want to win as a team.
And whatever those are either going to attract the right people that you want because they align with you and you're going to get along, or they're going to absolutely repel anybody that doesn't fit.
Even better.
Yeah. Like, I don't want those people. And that's cool. I would rather know up front than 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road where I'm going, hey, man, what are you doing? Why are you being this way?
So a lot of our Boost folks have made hires. You know, oftentimes they're in different stages, but they've made hires and they haven't worked out. And I don't understand. I just can't find somebody that, that cares about this thing the way I do. Can't find somebody that handles leads or is able to go out there and hustle and knock doors, or their attention to detail is not what mine is, right? So I think we have to understand that we are either attracting or repelling the people that we want to be aboard, but it's not until we create that. Like, inside this box, when we are here, when we are in this, when we put on the shirt, when we show up to work, this is how we behave. These are how we go about our business. These are our guiding principles as a team. This is what we measure ourselves against. And now we can have a conversation if they're not being done.
Right.
But if you never establish those, then talking about just how one person goes about their business versus the way you do it, now it's a personal attack.
Yeah.
It creates drama. So and everybody wants to build this company without drama, but you have to establish these underlying agreements, and this is how we're going to treat one another.
I think that's one of the keys to success that people just don't invest enough energy into. They hear it all the time about building culture and core values and all that stuff, and they go through the motions. Like they put it in, like write it down, maybe even put it on a wall, but they don't live it. Like, it's not it's not really their core values. It's what they want their core values to be, but it's not really their core values.
The best example I can give of living out your core values is our team at CCP.
It's not negotiable.
Yeah.
And you know it from day one. Whenever you come here, it's literally the first conversation we have. We've been so fortunate because we haven't had to run ads for anybody to work here. It's been a situation where they've come to us. Right. And usually the reason they come is this culture, like, hey, we like what you're doing, but we still hey, hold on a second, let's talk about what we do first. Let's talk about how we behave and what our purpose is and what our core values are. Like, those are so important to us. Are you good with those? Because if you come to work with here, I'm going to hold you accountable to them, and it's non-negotiable. It is the ultimate non-negotiable. If my team doesn't love, serve, care, master their craft, and have fun doing what we do, we're going to talk.
It's just not going to work.
And it has. And you've been here long enough to see it not work out.
Yeah.
We've had coaches that didn't align with that very well. And we talked about it up front. We said, hey, this is what they are. And when they didn't live to it, it made it that much easier to just, hey, let's call this out. Let's have a conversation. Not in front of everybody. Whenever there's negativity, it's always one-on-one. When it's positivity, it's in front of everybody. But you can go to them and say, hey, remember this? Remember this core value, this thing that we are? You're not exuding that. You're not an example of it right now. I need you to get that in check, or you're just not going to be a part of this. And we usually give a couple of shots, and if it's not working out, it's just simple and clear. And it doesn't make me feel bad to let somebody go according to those core values, because they're not more important than everybody else on the team.
Right.
It's the, cut off the thumb that's causing a problem to save the body. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think a lot of people feel held hostage sometimes.
Right.
That they can't let somebody go because they're too valuable, regardless of whether they fit the culture or not. It was kind of interesting. One of our friends in the industry, he had to fire a $3 million salesperson, and because he wasn't living in core value. He was super worried because he was the majority of their sales. And I told him, I said, hey, here's what you're going to find. You're going to fire that guy and your sales are going to go up, because everybody else is now going to step up. They're going to go, hey, we need to fill the gap, number one, and thank you, God, for that guy not being here and doing what you said you were going to do by your core values. And sure enough, I just saw he had his best January ever. And that's cool to me.
And what a great way to build continuous buy-in for everybody else that's still on the team, right? That's saying we believe in this. These aren't just words that are on a wall. Right? We believe in what we stand for, and we believe in the core values that we've built. Right?
Yeah. So now we've got leadership. We've got some time management going. We've got some skill going. We've built out our culture, and with those two things, we can now do one of the hard things, because now we've got some buy-in, right? Yeah. So now it's all right. We got that under control. It's time to start building processes. Because if it's not repeatable, you can't ever find freedom from it. Right. And how do the guys deal with that whenever you go through that?
Yeah, it's a bear. Building out a process can be a bear if you don't have the right tools. If you don't understand how to build a process. What are the major components that are part of a process, a winning process, and then a little bit of guidance. But hey, it's no secret you can't just write a perfect process, an ideal process in a week, right? We believe in eating the elephant one bite at a time, focusing. And lately we've had folks, if it's been immediately obvious to them the next person they need to hire, then I now know the next person that I need to build a process for. I now know the next, and so you can, instead of looking at your process as oh man, the 75 different processes that are all part of my business. Yeah, you can start and you can say, okay, no. I need to take care of my customers. I need to make sure that everybody who comes aboard is taking care of the customers the way I want them to take care of customers. So who's coming aboard? Let's focus on that process, that job description, right? Okay, if it's admin, that's a vital role.
Yeah,
right?
What do we got to do to cover all that?
Yeah,
right?
and build out the process so that we understand what's clearly expected of them. Right, we can have conversations. Now we can. I always tell folks your process becomes your training manual, becomes your expectations. It becomes. It's a multifaceted tool, but it does take work. And I think it takes a framework, it takes a little bit of guidance, and focus.
The Atlas Pro Plus Contractor program is designed to help you build your business. It gives you tools and resources, training, industry insights, bonus structures, technical knowledge, the brand power and science of 3M Scotchgard, and what we think is the best product and warranty in the industry. Become part of the family that is succeeding and growing their businesses.
We went from nobody ever heard of us to the #1 roofing company in our region.
And we've gone from 12 roofs a year to 20, 35, and we did over 400 last year.
We're on track right now to do 1,000 roofs this year.
You'll begin earning Atlas bucks and rewards as you move up to even greater reward levels. Become an Atlas Pro today.
So, focus in doing this thing, it's multifaceted whenever it comes to process, because you're focused on, I've got to get these things in order so that whenever somebody comes in, they can follow them. Ideally, and we call it an ideal process, right? We never call it the perfect process or anything like that. And we want to knock out a big chunk of it when we're in Boost or when we're in our one-on-one coaching. And so we take the job. That's the one that we nail. We're like, okay, we need to get sales, we need to get production, we need to get collections under control. So we're going to put this process together with those things in mind. Now, there's other processes. You mentioned there's a whole bunch of processes, right? And maybe you do insurance work, and so you have a supplement process. There's a hiring process. There's a recruiting process. There's all these other things. But the big one, the one that's going to buy you the most time the fastest, is what we call the ideal job process, right? Walk us through that a little bit of what that looks like.
Yeah, so the ideal job process, I mean, it's the customer journey.
Yeah.
Right. So where does it start? Where does a customer enter our ecosystem? You can start it at marketing. I mean, but oftentimes we teach and coach to, I mean, when a lead comes in, when the phone rings, when you're out there, from that moment that a customer enters our ecosystem until they are done, all the way to closeout and everything in between. Right. How we build out the process for who all's involved. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we use the ideal process when we build is because that's usually the one that has the most roles involved in the company, right? The most people are touching this customer at some point. Not all the people. You could have 2 salespeople and only 1 salesperson's involved. But particularly when you're at that stage 1, maybe early stage 2 level, you are feeling yourself throughout the entire process. You're
really the process. They're coming to you, what do I do next? What do I do next? Yeah. What do I do next? And you're getting overwhelmed by all these questions, where if we can get it down and document like this is the way we do it, it saves that owner, that person with the experience, all of those questions. They can just go follow the process. And there'll be questions early on, they're brand new. But they go away a lot faster, because we're constantly driving it back to that, saying, hey, man, there's a process. Go read it exactly what you're supposed to, refer back to it. That's what's going to help you do this faster and more efficiently so that you can get rewarded quicker.
There's nothing like having a training tool that says, okay, you're going to watch me do this first. Here's your process. Here's your playbook. Here's what it's your cheat sheet. It's going to tell you what it is I'm about to do. Hey, what am I about to do right now? Oh, you're going to park on the street.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, what am I going to do next? You're going to get out and set up your lights and cones. Okay? Boom. What did I just do? Okay, you slammed your door. So I have a process. I have this written playbook that's telling you what it is I'm about to do so that you can visually see it. But you can also see what's coming, so you can pay a little bit more attention to all the things, the idiosyncrasies of how to do your work. Right?
Yeah, and then the next thing is going to come up, like walk to the house with your shoulders back, head up, confidence and a smile on your face. That level of detail is important, because you can't be there all the time. And that's just one little example. It's the same thing with a lead. It's the same thing with producing a job. You get into that detail. And we usually advise, build it as if a 7th grader was going to come in here tomorrow and execute this without any guidance from you.
There's a direct correlation between how granular your process is and how many phone calls you get.
That's so
as
great.
An owner.
That's really good.
Asking how to do something that you've already explained how to do.
The more detail you're able to give, the less questions you'll get. I love it. That's really good. It's really, I learned that the hard way as a contractor. It was because so many questions, beating my head against the wall, man, just stop, please. I'm getting calls at 7 in the morning till 1 in the morning. Okay, I need to get this stuff down on paper. I need to get everybody following the same system. Now, so that takes us through leadership, culture, process. And then we step into a few other things. We step into some HR, getting the job descriptions and everything put together, because now we have the tools to do it with.
Yep.
We get some finance in place so we don't make mistakes. We know what our money is and what our money isn't. And a lot of contractors make the mistake of thinking everything that's in the bank account is theirs, and it's not normally. You know, they got people to pay, suppliers to pay, stuff like that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. But
No, go ahead.
That's a huge component of the very first semester. I would call it a boost. Is just really just quick hitting finance basics. So many folks don't, like you said, they don't understand what numbers should I be paying attention to. How should I view this? How should I view what's in my account? Like, is it actually mine? Not understanding. I had a contractor tell me that my single greatest frustration is that I never know exactly how much I have to spend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's already accounted for and what isn't.
Right.
Understanding your cash flow, work in progress, and I love it because you bring in our finance coach, Jenny. You know, she talks with them and goes, "Okay, here's the basics. This is what needs to be done in order for you to move to that next stage," and it has a lot to do with like setup, right? Setup on how to set up QuickBooks correctly. Most guys don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they get whatever little guidance you get from QuickBooks, but that's not contractor guidance. That's just bookkeeping guidance.
Yeah, they say they have a bookkeeper and that reconciles everything, but at the end of the day, they still don't have this clear picture to paint or where to go to get it. Right?
Yeah.
Or the process, the strategy.
How to read a profit and loss statement, or how to read a balance sheet, and what that actually means to your business, and understanding cash flow. Like, it's not hard. It's intimidating to people because it's scary. Mm-hmm. They're like, I don't know that stuff, so I don't want to go learn that stuff. I have a CPA, I have a bookkeeper, it takes care of that for me. But that kills you in understanding what money you have to invest in the right places and how to leverage that investment to grow your business. Right. And so I find that to be a super valuable part. And I love how you call it first semester. So what are we trying to establish in the first semester? Because this is a 24, 25-week thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's 6 months. That first semester, what are we trying to establish?
Good question. So the first semester is, I call it a heavy lift. Like, this is, I mean, we're building buy-in very quickly. We're establishing, if by the end of the first semester, you don't have more time to, I mean, minimum double time to work on your business than you did when you started. I haven't done my job correctly. But it's all about establishing more time, creating your vision and your mission, having a plan, even a high-level plan of how I'm going to accomplish this thing, understanding your next first or your next best hire. Who's going to make the most impact? We should, by the end of that first semester, you should have a clear understanding of who that's going to be, and then what I'm expecting of them, and build out a process for them. And then having a general understanding, like, generally, what is my marketing strategy? What are the tactics that I employ that reinforce that strategy?
Hold on a second. We're going to talk a little marketing in the first semester.
Yeah.
So do you find wide variety in what they're about? Like, some guys are like, knock doors till the knuckles are bloody. Some guys are like, I want everything to be digital, and I need all the leads to be supplied to every. So how does that go?
I can't remember who I stole this term from, but marketing ultimately comes down to your budget and your belief. Right? What do I believe is going to work, and then how much whether it's cash or calories, am I willing to budget for it? So yeah, there's been a wide. I mean, some folks are just diehard believers in Google My Business. I'm getting everything I need from them. Some folks are working Angie, and they have the capacity and the ability and the structure to actually get results from it.
Right.
And but some say, oh, I want people out there canvassing, door knocking. Yeah, it's establishing the first and foremost, important part is just establishing what you believe is getting results.
That's what I think is maybe one of the most valuable things about our coaching is we don't coach to our belief system. We coach to the contractor's belief system, because if they believe in it, they'll execute it very well.
Yeah.
I know you can get leads in a dozen different ways at least, and I believe in certain ones that I would use as a contractor, but you may not. You may have a special gift or talent that, like, oh man, this social media thing is super easy for me. Exactly. I'm like, hey, this door knocking thing is super easy for me. Whichever one's easy and you believe in is the one you're going to get those results from. I think that's a really big takeaway from what you just talked about.
And if that's our strategy that we believe in, right, then let's build the process to bring in other people that are going to execute that if it's what we believe in. Sometimes it can be tough for contractors at this level have tried a couple of different things. They're dipping their toe in this tactic and this tactic and this strategy and this strategy. Okay, am I going to invest money? Do I have any investment?
You said that so politely. They're being distracted by this shiny object and that shiny object and this shiny object that's supposed to magically get me millions of leads, right?
And we're all being bombarded,
Yeah.
right? By what would you do with an extra 40 million leads in the next 15 minutes? Yeah, it can be a lot. But just coming to understand, like you said, your belief system. What do I believe has been working? What do I believe other people will come in here and have success doing as well?
Yeah, exactly. Bringing some outside folks in, like Tommy. Tommy comes in and helps out with Boost and talks about some of your market. And our thing is, like, as a Boost client, that stage one contractor, you don't have this big, huge budget. We got to figure out how to maximize every dollar that you spend to get the optimal return and result from. And we're going to walk you down that path and have you make some decisions and guide you along that way, but all in what you believe in.
Right.
So we get some marketing strategy put in place. What happens next in the first semester?
Well, that leads right into, so let's get some opportunities. Let's do what we believe is going to help us develop a strategy for what's going to help us get more opportunities. And then how do we close those opportunities quicker? Now we dive into building a sales presentation, a pro sales presentation. A lot of folks, some folks came from sales into ownership, right? They just say, I'm a great salesperson. I'm going to go out and start my own company. Other folks haven't really embodied the mindset of a sales professional yet.
Right.
There's owners out there that are just comfortable
and even
doing
a lot
the
of
work.
I'll ask you about this because I've seen this, and I don't know if you're seeing it too. But those guys that come from the sales side of it, I don't know if they're sales pros. I think they're good salespeople, and so they tend to be relational salespeople.
Right.
They get along with people well. People like them right off the bat, and this sales thing is kind of easy for them. But that's not a sales pro. A sales pro is somebody that knows a system, it's scripted, but they've made it their own, they've practiced it, and they can repeat it over and over again with multiple people, because nobody can sell like you sell as a relational salesperson.
Exactly. And how do you teach that?
Yeah,
how do you teach somebody to come in, hey, just follow?
You got to get people to like you right away. That's the first thing. And we talk about like rapport, and there's an actual skill set on building rapport, but some people are just naturally really good at it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's super important to like call out is like, yeah, you were good at sales, but most of the time, if you really think about it, did you understand human behavior? Do you understand sales psychology? Do you understand a system and process that's repeatable and successful and effective? And can you teach that to other people? Because if it's totally off of your relational ability to make sales, you can't teach that to anybody else.
And some of the biggest rock stars in sales struggle coaching and teaching and help and developing other salespeople. Right?
Well, for me, that was the big change in my sales results because I was a relational sales. People like me. And for whatever reason, I don't know why. Still to this day, I'm still concerned about why people liked me. But I could sell that way. And I was at one point I was young, so I had like this boyish demeanor about me. I had hair and all that stuff. And I did great. No problem. But then I learned about studying with sales and mastering that particular skill set. And so whenever I invested time in that and practiced it and made it a thing that I was doing every day to become this master of sales, my numbers were it didn't go from being in the top 3 every week. It was always number 1, and how far ahead was I as number 1? Because I'm over there, and you talked about being an athlete. I was an athlete. We both played the same sport, very similar background. What I found about that was everybody shows up at practice, right? There's practice 2.5, 3 hours, whatever that is, and they hit the showers and go. I hang out for another couple hours because I'm going to outwork you, and by doing that work and spending 2 more hours a day than you, I'm getting exponentially better than you, faster than you, and I'll be the one that gets the opportunity. Same thing in sales. Yeah. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, you can't rely on just live game, I call them in-game opportunities. You can't just rely on that to be your development.
I know you don't get better at golf on that one, that's for sure.
I don't. So back to the blueprint, the first semester. So we touch on marketing strategy. We help to build and really just identify a sales process, and the presentation is a critical part of that, right? Building a presentation that we can use that'll help us close deals faster. And then the back half of the course, right? So the first, we introduce these basics and these strategies and just quick here things that I need to know right now. In this level of my business, I need to have these things stood up, and that this is priority. And it is a heavy lift. Right? It requires work.
But that's 3 months, because you said
That's 3 months.
You said first semester, so 3 months. I've now got who I am, what I'm about. I've got time management in place. I'm starting to hire my first person. I've got marketing strategy in place. I know how to sell it whenever I get some leads, and we start getting some results right away.
And all of this is in accordance with my vision for my company and the mission that I've built out that I believe in that's going to help me get where I want to go. And then the back half of the course, we hammer home a lot. We hammer home finance, we hammer home marketing, we hammer home HR. And when I say that, we actually introduce our champion coaches, Jenny with finance, Roz in HR, and Tommy in marketing, and they come on and coach. I call it the Jenny Show. It's 2 hours, and it's just everything from QuickBooks basics to job costing to establishing your chart of accounts. Like it's really impactful. And then Rosalind helping. There's a lot of HR question marks in those first few. What should I be focusing on now? What must I build? She has such a great ability to make HR seem fun too.
Our coaches are good at like HR and finance. I'd rather stick a hot poker in my eye, but they make it amazing, man. It's enjoyable to go through.
It's employee performance. It's helping people, and that's how we view it. How do I get people that come aboard and they're doing a good job, and they know they're doing a good job. It's clear that because they want to do well and they want to know they're doing a good job. And so then Tommy comes in. He has a marketing Q&A call where I'm really diving into just, what Tommy does, right? Yeah. All things Tommy and all things marketing. But we also spend some time in talking about production essentials and customer service and how to create a wow experience, something that they'll never forget, because if they remember us, they refer us.
Oh yeah,
right. And then and just other ways to create powerful moments throughout the customer experience process, and then touch on different ways to have some direct bullseye marketing campaigns. And
I find this interesting because it sounds a lot like sports. You think about it, you go back into like the beginnings of when you started playing baseball or basketball. I know you're like fan of both of those. It was like establishing the fundamentals first, right? Like how do I dribble, or how do I swing a bat? How do I field a ball? And just getting that part down, and then going back to those things and just stepping them up, refining them, and improving that skill. This whole business thing is kind of like riding a bicycle. First time, man, it's can I stay up? I'm going to crash and burn. I got some raspberries. Do I need to wear a helmet? All that kind of stuff to, hey, I kind of got a rhythm to this now. And all of a sudden I can go a little faster, and a little faster. And at some point, your coach or your parent who is holding your seat on your bicycle can go, hey, run with it for a little while. But we're going to hit another barrier. We're going to get into that 2 or 3 million. Then it's going to get into hiring more people, better communication, technology, and those things. That's where our one-on-one stuff comes in. You do a lot of that as well. It's kind of cool because you go through Boost with some people, and then they become this one-on-one client, and it gets really custom there. Right? Like it gets fully like ingrained, detailed on each one of those things, really refining those skills and processes and systems. And really and truthfully, I was thinking about this the other day. Kind of what we do is we build big companies. Like that's what we do, and we build great people. Have you noticed that? Like, I think a lot of people come to us for this coaching of the business thing, but it tends to get more into coaching the individual. How's that been for you?
Some of my favorite conversations. I love what you said about building. We build big companies. Like there's this point, this tipping point, usually in our one-on-one coaching where all of a sudden things change. More people are involved. It's not just the owner that's trying to make all the decisions. Like all of a sudden more people are looped in. They're being delegated to. My favorite conversations are with an owner who just has an issue that he needs to communicate. And just walking them through that, like that, it's been because you're right, at different levels, right, at different stages of growth, there are going to be different things that just bump into us, and there is inevitably a time where, as a leader, you have to be able to have great meetings and great conversations and tough conversations, right, at a high level, and have emotional awareness to Yeah, I mean, you just have to level up. You have to level up in your leadership communication skills.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't know what emotional awareness or emotional intelligence is, and it's a struggle because we're emotional creatures, and a lot of times our emotions will get a hold of us, and we'll say rash things and make rash decisions, and we end up shooting ourselves in the foot. Especially with somebody that could be valuable to us, and it's all over in 30 seconds because we couldn't check our emotions. And it's fun to walk guys through that. And so what we've done is we've taken those fundamentals, we kind of built up the skills a little bit to kind of, hey, let's play a little, little league. All right, we can actually go play a game with others out there. Now it's like, hey man, you showed some like proclivity for that. Want to play on a high school team? Want to play minor leagues? Want to play pro? Let's keep going. And we use this mission-focused coaching methodology. You mentioned it like it's one of our foundational things. We're going to build a mission, a year-long mission that helps you get to your vision. Having a guide to walk alongside of you with that, and knowing that you have this group of coaches that have you covered in leadership and culture, have you covered in process, HR, finance, accountability, technology, marketing, sales, production, training, recruiting and hiring. Like, I got all those guys right there for me on any aspect I want to do in my business, and I'm executing this mission with these things that need to be accomplished. Once again, we grow big businesses.
I've heard you refer to it as a board of directors.
Yeah.
You're bringing on a board of directors.
I wish that was my idea. That was not my. I was like, hey, we want to, be almost like virtual CFO, CEO, and stuff like that. And our coach, this is where having a strong team is super valuable. Our coaches are like, that's not really what we are. That's like really being an employee of their company. We're more like a board of directors. We're this guiding set of specialists that will help you not make bad decisions. I put you in check a little bit, challenge you a lot, push you, and then also call you whenever you're like, hey, we're losing people. Our profitability isn't where it needs to be. We're looking at your business as if it was our own and going, hey, well, what can we improve? I got a great example of one right now that's like, they came to us and they made 2% profit last year. Now, they are in Death Valley, where they're growing from here to here, so there's a lot of investment, but still, that's not acceptable. Right. We literally spent a month checking boxes off. Instantly, they're at 9%. Instant, like just overnight. And it's because we got focused on it and solving those problems. Jon? This has been awesome, man. Yes. I'm super excited. You were here creating some content and stuff. He actually came to me with some pretty silly ideas. We've got some new members on our team that we're going to be introducing you to over the coming weeks, and I think we've got a pretty cool way of introducing them to you because they're going to be valuable. I mean, they're unbelievable in their level of knowledge and emotional intelligence. Wouldn't you say they're pretty strong at that?
Yeah, just all things nonverbal communication. Yeah, they are an integral. They're irreplaceable. They haven't been on the team very long, but you can already tell that. Yeah, they're going to be tough to replace. We want them to stick around.
Yeah, for sure.
No, their skill set is unmatched.
I haven't seen anybody work as hard as they are. Like, they're here whenever we get here, and they're here whenever I leave.
They're nothing if not consistent.
Yeah, 100%. Jon, it's been awesome having Jon's laughing. You guys are going to love this. It's been awesome having you here, not just to be on the show and that kind of thing, but having you here, like in the building, hanging out at our house, going and sharing a meal with you, learning more about you and what your goals are and your family, seeing all the struggles that you're going through as a parent and going, I'm done with that, right? But there's joy there too, and I'm happy that you being here affords you an opportunity to spend some time with your family and be really close with them.
I'm so thankful. This is just a remarkable season in our lives, right? Where, we're busy, things are crazy, but I am so blessed to be able to do what it is I love to do with people that I love. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's very cool. Not a lot of folks can say that, and I'm incredibly blessed. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. All right, everybody, that is our episode of Contractor Radio this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some insight into like these stages that you're going through, the things you need to put in place. If you're looking for a guide, you want to get control of that business so it can grow and you can find that personal and financial freedom that you've been chasing. You'd like a coach that works with you as a person as much as with your business? Check us out. Go to contractorcoachpro.com. Fill out the little assessment. There's an assessment that says Take Assessment button. Click that. Take the assessment. It takes about 15, 20 minutes. It's no joke. Like, hey, we want to be serious about this. But if you take that assessment, I promise you, we'll do a free coaching call with you that is a coaching call, not a sales pitch. We want you to see what coaching is like, why it's valuable, why it speeds up the process for you, why it helps you get to where you want to be faster so that you can spend more time with those you love and care for. That's our job. That's our mission, is to flip the 80% of contractors going out of business to 80% of contractors staying in business. That's what we do here. We'll see you on our next episode of Contractor Radio. Thanks, John.